was reflecting on this. Christmas is coming up. Okay, Christmas is coming up. And today's message is about Passover, which I thought, this is not my doing. I don't plan these things. The whole Creation to Christ series was planned during the summer, and we just sort of locked these different topics in, and we didn't know where it was going to coincide. And again, with different things that happened over the year, things have just sort of moved around. So we've got a really interesting coincidence here that we have Christmas, a major religious, is that running? It is running? Okay. We have a major religious festival called Christmas, and we have another major religious holiday called Passover, and we're going to talk about that today. It's kind of cool, both these things coming together. Okay? And again, with the whole Creation to Christ message, we're going to look at how Jesus is everywhere. Jesus is not just an Old Testament character or a New Testament character. He's a complete Bible character. And again, we've talked about this before, where some people sit there and think that God is Old Testament and Jesus is New Testament. That's not right. If you stop and think that God incarnate, God as a man, that's Jesus. Okay? So wherever you see God, that's Jesus. He's everywhere. And that's what we're going to look at today. So, in the case of Passover, they do a few preparations here. And the key ones we're going to look at today are the leaven and the lamb. And I think you're probably going to figure out why these are important once we get into these. So I'm going to just read along with me here, and I'm going to read this to you because, again, this is a very important section. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household." Now, we briefly talked about this last week, right? Why a lamb? Come on, yeah, you got it. I hear someone muttering it. Okay. Whenever, and this is one of the reasons we go through some of this stuff. People read through the Bible and they go, okay, so they got to take a lamb. Okay, big deal. They could have taken a goat, a chicken, a turkey, or whatever. No. There is an important reasons why this is a lamb. In the Bible, that's right, the Lamb of God, whenever lamb is mentioned in the Bible, it is a reference to Jesus, and it's going to be a connection to Jesus. So God is telling Moses to take a lamb. Now, if any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people that are there. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what person will eat. Now here, the animals you choose, see that word? Males, without defect, and you may take them from sheep or goats. Now, they're telling you to take a male lamb, and without defect. Bells should be going off. Okay, this is Jesus. Lamb, male, without defect. Now, the thing is that people say, you can be reading this and going like, wow, I never saw that, never understood that. That's fine. That's cool. The more you read the Bible, the more you're going to start doing things like going, whoa, now I get it. Now I see it. I've read some stuff in the Bible before, and I've read about lambs, but I didn't get it. Now I'm getting it. We work together, we learn together. I learn from you, okay? And you learn from me. So this is why we're in community together. That's why we worship together in family. That's why this church is a family. You should be able to feel free to come and talk to people and say, whoa, man, I didn't get that. That's cool, thank you. Now, take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the members of the community of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. Then they are to take, what's that?
Blood.
Some blood, and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. We're only going to do this for about 15-20 minutes today, guys, but this section of the Bible is jam-packed with information. I'm hoping that, like a good meal, this will get your appetite going. And going and saying, like, oh, gee, I wish there was more time for Pastor Dave to talk more about this. We've got the lamb now, right? When we talk about the lamb, it's Jesus. Okay, come on, guys. Work with me, okay, come on. This is participatory preaching. Second thing. The blood, okay? The blood. Whose blood?
Jesus.
Okay, so the lamb, the actual lamb, its blood is what we're talking about here, but it's actually talking about into the future, Jesus' blood.
Right.
There's another thing here. You see this? Okay. Bread made without yeast. We're going to see yeast come up all through the Bible. It comes up in the New Testament too. Jesus at one point says, beware the yeast of the Pharisees. And his disciples go like, what? What are you talking about, yeast of the Pharisees? Whenever we see yeast, you know what it means?
Sin.
Okay, it's a word that starts with S and ends with N, and there's an I in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Whenever you see yeast, it's actually talking about sin, because yeast, when you add it to flour, it spreads through the dough. And this is what sin does. It enters into our lives, usually in small amounts, and spreads through us. Remember, like back when we did the series about the minefield, I talked about the occult. And people saying, well, it's okay to read the horoscopes because it's not okay. And the example I used was, if this room was airtight and there was a crack underneath the door, and out in the hall it was full of smoke, the smoke would just gradually, just a little bit come in, and you go like, it's just a little bit of smoke, it's nothing to worry about. But this room is airtight, and what's going to eventually happen is the smoke is going to fill this room, it's going to choke you, and it's going to kill you. The same way sin works in our lives. So right here, just in this first little section, we have a lot of symbolism. And it's important to talk about this so we all understand. People see some people starting to shake their heads going, whoa, okay, I get this. Do not eat the meat raw or boiled in water, but roasted over fire with the head, legs, and internal organs. Do not leave any of it till morning. If some of it is left till morning, you must burn it. This is how you're to eat it, with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals in your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It's the Lord's Passover. Now, this is where sometimes people get messed up with the Bible. It's like, why are they telling me how to eat a lamb? And what happens with this sometimes is we miss the important stuff, and which is unfortunate. And that's why we need to study. We need to talk about this and discuss this. In the case of the Passover too, there's a lot of confusion that goes on with this stuff. There is Passover, and there's a thing called the Festival of leavened bread. They get confused that they're the same thing, but they're not. Passover is the first part of the Festival of Unleavened Bread, which is 7 days. Passover is only 1 day. Passover celebrates the time that God spared the Israelites death. This is why they're putting the blood on the doors. Again, this is incredibly important. If you know the story, great. If not, I'll remind you. Moses was trying to get out of Egypt with all the Israelites to take them to the promised land. The Pharaoh, the guy's a real weasel. He'd say to them, no, the Pharaoh, I didn't say you. The Pharaoh's a real problem. Like, he'd say to him, okay, you can go, and then he'd change his mind. But he's also kind of a slow learner, because every time he turned around and said no, God would bring down some kind of punishment. Very creative God, too. He brings down frogs. Frogs were everywhere. There were people's beds, under their beds, in their food, and all kinds of stuff. The water turned into blood. All kinds of nasty things. The Passover is the 10th and final one where God simply says, that's it. That's it. You're not going to listen. I'm pulling out all the stops, and we're going to do a good one on you. So he says, the first born in the family, whether it's human or animal, gone, dead. Okay. So that should get the Pharaoh's attention, because the Pharaoh had a young son at this time too. So, so what God said was, you paint the doorway. That's why this whole thing about the blood and the lamb. You paint the doorway with the blood. And when this death comes over, it will pass over the houses that have been marked with the blood. Nobody will die in that house. Just like if you are a Christian, you have been washed in the blood of Jesus. And death will pass you over. This is huge. This is like this whole part of the story is incredible. And people are just like, frogs, blood, and, all these things. But they sometimes miss this last thing. And it's so incredibly cool because it reaches ahead to Jesus and reaches back to Jesus and speaks to us. So people go like, the Old Testament's all old and dusty and boring. Far from it. It's very much alive and well in our lives. This is kind of cool too. Do you know what that is? Unleavened bread. What do we commonly call it though? Matzah. Matzah, okay. And it's actually what we use when we do communion. When we do communion, we actually use matzahs. Because we got some matzahs, so we used it. It's kind of cool. It's unleavened bread. There's no yeast in it. When they were told to pick up and move and go fast, they had no time to put any kind of yeast in anything. So all they did was they mixed the flour, slapped it on top of a hot rock, on top of a griddle, and that was it. And off they went with the matzahs, the unleavened bread. On that same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Whoa. Okay. Don't mess with God. I am the Lord. Again, there's something else I want to just... Again, I can't do everything here, but there's some important stuff. When you are reading the Bible, do you see this? I am. Okay, the great I am. When you're reading the Bible, inevitably, when God's talking or Jesus is talking, it's used in the present tense. Okay? Jesus was 2,000 years ago, but he talks about I am. And that's incredibly important because the language is specific. Present tense means that he is still alive. It's not past tense. When I did this, I was the Lord. No. I am the Lord. Then, and now, and forever. These tenses are really important. That's what you get from next English teacher. I get excited about stuff like this. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day when you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days, this is the festival of leavened bread. For 7 days, you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses, for whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th must be cut off from Israel. So, get the yeast out of the house. Get the sin out of your life. Okay, it's kind of cool. One of the things that Jewish kids do for this festival is the parents clean the house out of anything with yeast, but they keep some stuff in the house, like little bits of bread, and they hide it. And as for the kids have to go through the house and find the yeast and get rid of it. So even the kids get involved with this too. It's kind of cool. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another on the 7th day. Do no work at all on these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month, you are to eat bread made without yeast, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days, no yeast is to be found in your houses. And anyone, whether foreigner or native-born, who eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel. Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. This sounds a little weird, but actually, some of you are old enough, I know I am, and some of you have talked to your grandparents, they'll tell you too, at Lent is something like this, in that what they do is you're supposed to clean the house out of a lot of the things that are tempting. Sugar, eggs, cream, stuff like this. That's why when we have Pancake Tuesday, the reason that they used to have Pancake Tuesday, people lose these traditions, is to get rid of all those rich things in the house that we're supposed to get rid of. Eggs, milk, butter, and all that. They make pancakes, boom, we got rid of it. The house is empty. So this stuff, people go, yeah, what are you guys coming? We have the same traditions, but we just lose track of them. A lot of people don't know, why are we having pancakes on Tuesday? Like, there is a reason. Other than the fact they taste good. The importance of leaven. A little leaven corrupts the whole. Now you take a look here, and this is what we were just talking about. You see, a little bit of vanity will grow, and it's any sin. Pride, greed, any of those sins. Lying, what's just a little lie? A what? That's like saying that it's only a little lie is like saying that you're only a little bit pregnant. It is or it isn't. It's a sin or it's not. Okay? So be careful when you start making these just a little sin. It's just a little bit of smoke coming underneath the door. Okay? Everybody looks, is there? And this is what they actually do. They go out and they mark the house with blood for Passover. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe and will pass over that doorway, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants. When you enter the land that the Lord will give you as promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask you, 'What does this ceremony mean?' tell them, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over our houses to the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians.' Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelis did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron." Same thing with us. If we allow the blood of Jesus to wash over us, the sacrificial lamb, in this story, an actual physical lamb was sacrificed so that the blood could be shed to save the people. Jesus, the lamb, the innocent lamb, shed his blood so that we could also live eternally. It all goes together. You cannot take one part of this story and make it separate from it. It all goes together. So I cannot encourage you enough. If you don't have a Bible, most of you do, it's interesting statistically, each home, the average home has 6.8 Bibles. Most of them sit on the shelves unopened. People think that they're very holy and special books and we shouldn't even touch them. That's wrong. The more beat up they are, the better. I really encourage, and if you don't have one, we'll get you one. Start reading it. And I'll be very honest with you, some of it will make sense. Some of it is going to be like, what is this about? And that's why we're here. Whether it's your table leader, whether it's me and Dwight and Sam, or maybe even just somebody that's sitting next to you. So, I'm sitting there, talking to this lady, and I say to her, "Hey, you know something? I just read this story about the Passover. Like, does it make any sense?" And she says to me, "I read it 3 times, and I finally got it, I think. Let me tell you what I think." We share, and I've said this so many times before, this Christian journey is a journey we do together. We share. I learn from you, you learn from me. To sit in a church, whether it's this church or any church like this, being isolated and expecting somebody to drill a hole into your head, stick a funnel in and pour it in, it's not going to work. He wants you to work at this so you understand. If you don't work your body, it's not going to be taut and tough and strong. It's going to be all flabby and nasty. Your brain is the same thing, and so is your faith. You've got to work it. Discussion questions. A couple simple ones. First one, and this is always, a lot of people have to get into this too, and you can if you want to, it's up to you. Jesus celebrated Passover, should we too? Okay? Now, again, it's easy to say yes, but then why, and what's the benefit? All right, so just, it's not just a gut reaction, yeah, sure, why not? It's another holiday. Number 2, why is it important for us as Christians to understand what happened at Passover? How does that affect us? Because the thing is, let's face it, Passover is a Jewish holiday. We're not Jews. But we are learning something from that. What can we learn? What should we learn? Okay? So we take a break for a couple of weeks with the creation of Christ, but it will continue into the new year until we get up to the point in time where Jesus Christ ascends into heaven. And again, I hope that this is starting to spark some ideas. I've had some people come up to me and just simply say, whoa, never saw that. Great, that's wonderful. The day you sit there and go, Pastor Dave, I know it all. Okay. Good luck. We'll never know it all. We'll never understand it all. But as we develop in life and as we grow and as we experience different things, these words mean something to us. The Bible is alive. It's not a bunch of dead paper. It's alive, and if you let it be alive, it's amazing. It's a great journey. Anyhow, hope to see you next week for Christmas carols. Bring your voices. Have a great week, and God bless.